Not audible, sir.
Not audible, sir.
So malicious or intentional poison means a purposeful incidence of such poisoning is more prevalent in case of human beings, but nowadays it has become somewhat less when compared to the earlier ages. So yet some of the reports are the Abrus prectorius seeds, then the strychnine, especially the dogs, many times they are poisoned with the strychnine, the especially bark of the strychnine and some of the rodenticides. So the stray dogs or sometimes the animals with the malicious intentions or the arsenic trioxide or also agrochemicals are mixed in food or drinking water or administered through some of the routes to kill the animals. So you know how this rivalry takes place, and many persons are in the act of killing the animals. And earlier the butchers, whenever they didn't have the this especially the hide etc., they used to offer the especially some of the seeds of Abrus prectorius, strychnine or rodenticides. But the incidence is a little bit reduced now because the butchers might have got some other job also because of the socio-economic status has been improved. Then the occupational sources, yes, yesterday we have discussed how they, especially in the mines, of course, this is the copper mining. So they have a lot of risk of poisonings. So the chemicals which are present, especially in the deep ROs, though they are very hazardous in nature, and many times the ventilation is not there, and some many times the oxygen there will be lacking also. Whereas the occupational poisoning is the toxicity to the persons who are working in the hazardous or the toxic chemicals, especially with related to their occupation. So here also you can see that this, especially in Ballari mining and other thing, nowadays it has been stopped by the High Court or Supreme Court's verdict. So you can see that very large this thing, especially the digging has been taking place and a lot of dust is, especially this is provided. Then the very great hazard, especially the occupational hazard, is happening with the people who are working in the mines. And of course, the persons, especially ladies who are working in the cloth industry, especially the staining up of the cloth with the colors, etc., then they have got lot of chances of having the cancer, especially the lung cancer. And Ellenberg in 1480 warned the mercury and lead toxicity the people working in the gold minings. So about 600 or 700 years back only, it was noticed that this mining is very dangerous to the human health. Apart from this, particularly the directly to the health, the I think many of you might have seen that whenever there is a mining that was happening in Hospete, all the road was totally blocked by the vehicles and a lot of dust used to be produced. And Hosapete was called as the Palasapete because it was having such a dust. And at the same time, the occupational workers in the chemicals, like the metals, tannery industry, means the here is the hide is tannery industry, especially hide of the skins of the animals are processed with that of varieties of the chemicals and other thing. Then the glass paint, the paint industries, then coal, asbestos industries, coal and asbestos industries. So the persons involved in public health programs are prone to the toxic effects. Example, use of the DDT or other chemicals under the National Malaria Eradication Program. And the people involved in the spray of the agrochemicals on the field, crops or painters, etc., are sufferers. So one need to be careful about this, particularly the occupational hazards which are happening in the course. And apart from this one, the persons who are working in the mines, so there is a requirement of biological monitoring of the exposure level, how much exposure, maybe a radiation or the airborne concentration of the chemicals, then in the how much quantity is accumulated in the lungs, and evaluation of the intensity of exposure and early markers of adverse effects, maybe the hepatic enzymes or the uh, especially the kidney function tests, etc., need to be done very sporadic, not only very frequently, and immediate diagnosis is very much necessary. So then, so with the increasing incidences of the occupational hazards, not only from the mining, nowadays, the working in the industries, like the cement industries. So lots of asbestos fumes are going inside the lungs of the workers, and the crusher industries, especially the stone crushers and the stone pelting, especially the minings, which is, you might have heard about the Kanambadi Dam, the mining is going on, and lot of crushers are working there, and the very huge fume, especially the dust is produced. Then apart from this one, the industrial toxicology is getting very, very important, because the exhausts of this industry do contain varieties of the chemicals which are directly exhausted in the air. Hence, the objective of prevention of health impairments in the workers engaged in the industrial units is also the branch of the toxicology that's called as the industrial toxicology. So the objective of this industrial toxicology can only be achieved if exposure limits are very well in the defined limit. So because we cannot avoid the industries and other thing in this modern era, we do require a lot of cement. So for preparing cement, we do require a lot of the ingredients, maybe the stone powder and many more. So suppose to construct a 10-kilometer tar road, we require tons of the jellies and the crushed stones, etc. So a part of the environment need to be evacuated, but at the same time, we need to fulfill the environmental criteria, like planting the trees in the same, then the maximum allowable concentration, we need to say how much quantity of the dust material is required to cause a disease. That's called as the maximum allowable concentration. Then threshold limit value is called as TLVS. Then threshold limit value ceiling. So there is a two terminologies are there. One is the threshold limit value. Then the threshold limit value dash ceiling, that's TLV dash C. Then occupational exposure limit, OELs, etc. So these are all certain terminologies which are very commonly used in case of the industrial toxicology is concerned. So whenever giving the license to industry, all these are taken care by the Pollution Control Board. Then types of the poisoning or toxicity. So coming to this thing, there are varieties of types of the poisoning or also the toxicity. They are both of them are the synonyms, and common terms used while prescribing the toxicity are. So you should be thorough in this some of the terminologies. Number one is the toxic dose. So toxic dose is the lowest dose of the toxicant which produces the toxic effects in living organisms. So that is a toxic dose means the lowest concentration of a toxicant that produces toxic effects living in the living organisms. Whereas the lethal dose, it is the lowest dose of the toxicant, lethal dose. So there is a very minute difference is there. So lowest dose of the toxicant which produces toxic effects in living organisms is called as the toxic dose. Whereas the lethal dose, the lowest dose of the toxicant which causes the mortality or lethality or death in animal during the observation period is called as the lethal dose. So here in the toxic dose, it causes the toxicity or discomfortness to the animal, or the well-beingness of the animal is distorted. Whereas in case of the lethal dose, so at that particular dose, the animal's life will be ended, means it's going to die during a particular observation period, because there is once again acute, subacute, subchronic. So it's also observation period. Whereas the median lethal dose 50 is one of the important terminology in toxicology. Always it is LD50, etc. Several times they will be repeated. And this is a dose of the toxicant which produces lethality in 50% of the population of the animals which are exposed to that particular agent or compound. So median lethal dose is dose of the toxicant which produces the 50% death of the population and animals exposed to the particular agent or compound. So here we are going to fix a dose, and that dose should kill the 50% of the population. Suppose there are 1,500 rats are there, then we are going to judge the dose of the chemical in which the death of the 50% of the animals is seen. That means the mortality of the population, animals in population, not one or two. We can suppose there are 2 rats and we are using a dose of the chemical that is 10 milligram per kg. Then if one dies, that is not meaning of the LD50 because it should be in large population. A minimum number of 6 animals should be there and we should need the toxicity. Nowadays, the LD50 toxicity tests are conducted in totally a different manner. Nowadays, these up and down procedures are there. These OECD guidelines are given in such a way that we can estimate the LD50 without killing the large number of animals in the animal ethics are concerned. Then the general types are acute, subacute, chronic toxicity. So acute toxicity results from the exposure of the this organism to relatively high doses of the compound, usually a single dose or exposure over a short period of time, that is the few days. And also the symptoms, especially symptoms of toxicity are more severe and onset of the toxicity and death are rapid, and some of the animals may even die without showing any clinical signs, Whereas the subacute toxicity is appearance of the mild form of the toxicity symptoms, then following repeated administration of the exposure to relatively low doses of the small or low doses or small amounts for at least 90 days. Of course, these are all changed now, subacute toxicity. So the different guidelines say different thing, but subacute toxicity means the at least 90 days it should be studied. The toxicity symptom will develop gradually. Acute means there is no onset of the clinical signs immediately, and the animals are going to die within a very short period. Whereas subacute, it takes 90 days, whereas the and these tests are performed to establish a no observable adverse effect level or the safety level or no observable effects level NOEL, or to identify the specific organs affected by the test compound after repeated administration. So NOEL, the largest dose that will produce the deleterious effects when administered over a given period of time. So no observable effect level. And the chronic toxicity is a very mild form of the toxicity syndrome following long-term repeated exposure to relatively low doses of the poisons over the prolonged period of time. Generally, it is 6 months or more, but the different guidelines say different. This is one of the old definitions that is given in the traditional textbook. But the totally nowadays the concept of the chronic toxicity and other thing, they have been readjusted in such a way that the less killing up of the animal or less suffering up of the animals. And onset of the toxicity is here gradual and often appearing first as decline in feed intake or the gain or the weight gain, etc. Then the special type of the toxicity. So special types of the toxicity are the mutagenicity, means ability of an agent or the mutagens. Here the substance which causes the mutagenicity is called as the mutagens, and it is the capacity of the substance to induce mutation or ability of the agent to induce mutation or changes through a change in the genotype or the genetic material and the cell by the covalent modification of the bases of DNA, particularly the guanine of DNA. And this process, on which the cell divides, example, the formaldehyde, it's a mutagen, means it is going to change the cell structure in the DNA level, or hexamethyl, that is phosphoramide, or cresols. All these are the mutagens. It means they are going to change the DNA structure in the cell level, whereas the carcinogens are the one which are going to induce the cancer, or the ability of the compound, the carcinogen or the toxicant, to transfer the normal cell into progressively uncontrollably proliferating arms and resulting in the neoplasm. Example, the cadmium, then soot, then methyl chloranthrene. All these are the carcinogens. These are the only few examples. Apart from this one, there are hundreds of the carcinogens are there, because continuous exposure to the carcinogens will induce the tumor. Then the next terminology is the teratogenicity. Already we have seen the ability of the agent to induce the gross structural or anatomical or physiological malformations in a developing fetus during gestation. So this is also the physiological malformations developing during the gestation period, means day 0 of the conception to the day of the parturition. This is called as the teratogen. The word teratology means, teras means monster or study of the congenital defect. Then the teratogens, varieties of reagents are there which are going to induce the teratogenicity. So here the first and foremost important thing is the thalidomide. It's a very great disorder. Thalidomide was used by many countries as one of the painkiller drugs, and while it's in the clinical trial, maybe the post-marketing survival trial, then at that time what happened, many ladies with pregnancy, they consumed the thalidomide, and the offsprings born to these ladies they didn't have the appendages for the legs or also the hand, etc. So it's called as a phocomelia. So that's why the thalidomide incidence is also one of the disaster, drug-induced disaster. And the methotrexate, which is very commonly used in the treatment of the psoriasis or the colchicines, whereas the anti-cancerous drugs and the cortisons, you know very well. Then acute principles of certain plants like the veratrum alkaloids or Veratrum californium, then Lupinus podatus, then Oxytropis muricata. All these are the known natural, at the same time the drug-induced teratogens, especially the teratogens. Then yes, that's why many times it is on the, especially prescriptions or the leaflet induced, it is always written that not to be used in pregnant, or a known teratogen like that one should not use. Of course, this albendazole is also not proved to be a safe drug. In the female pregnant rats, it is going to induce the teratogenicity. And allergy, hypersensitivity, or these are the immunologically mediated reaction of the substance to a previously sensitization by the same or structurally similar chemical poison or the allergen. Example, the penicillin or tuberculorin, or also the salicylates. So compared to the humans, allergy incidence is less in animals, as the data are very scanty, because the number of the animals which are exposed to the drugs or allergens is very, very less. But this doesn't mean that there are no teratogens in the animals or allergens in the animals. So they may suffer, but we are not going to put them on the data, especially on the database or in the form of the article. So the idiosyncrasy, you know very well, Yes, it's a genetically determined, qualitatively abnormal reaction of a subject to poison drug. Means in the thousands of patients, nothing is going to happen, but a single person or a group of persons, suddenly they develop allergic reactions to a drug or the chemicals or whatever it may be. That's called as the idiosyncrasy. Because while the drug trials or tests, such allergy is not noticed, but when it is administered to a large population, some persons suddenly show the hypersensitivity reaction. So this is called as the idiosyncrasy. And out of the large segment of the population, very few or the countable numbers subjects may respond to different from the rest of the individuals. So here, the apart from the regular response, the penicillin allergy. So 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000, they show the allergic to penicillin. That's because of the hapten. That's penicillin hapten that's present in the blood of an animal or the human being, and which causes the sudden or the type 1 hypersensitivity program. So here also the individual's deficiency in glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase suffer with a hemolytic crisis. With the antimalarial drugs, that's the barbiturates, then the griseofulvine, a systemic antifungal drug. Then thorates, one of the poisons. Then the glycosides from the broad beans, etc. So all these are going to cause the hemolytic crisis because there is already pre-existing glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. Then this causes the caused by the antimalarial drugs, maybe the colchicine and the barbiturate, maybe any barbiturate, short acting, long acting, intermediate acting. So this happens. This is called as the atypical behavior of the drug to certain persons only. Whereas you cannot ban this, the drugs and other thing, but the user should be always cautioned that there is a chance that this XYZ may happen, and be careful. Like that, the coming to the next chapter, that's the classifications of the poison. And here, varieties of the poisoning classifications are there, starting from the chemical nature, then physical nature, then toxicity nature, and organ-wise, whether it's a nephrotoxic or the hepatotoxic, neurotoxic, like that. So different books classify the toxicity in different methods. So these are based on varieties of the like this criteria, like the based on physical state of the poison and chemical characteristic, whether it's an acid, alkali, base, then the tannins or the glycosides, etc. Then needs and uses, then target organ, to which organ it is going to cause toxicity. Then the uses like the pesticides, herbicides, weedicides, rodenticides, and many more. Whereas the sources, whether it's a plant source or animal source or also from the industrial source. Then the biological effect means whether it's going to affect the which type of the biological system. Then the toxicity potential, whether it's going to cause the acute toxicity, subacute toxicity, chronic toxicity, subchronic, and many more. And coming to the mechanism of action, so here we can give hundreds of the examples, just like the acetylcholinesterase enzyme inhibitors, or broadly you can classify such thing, or the neurotoxic substances. And also the environmental and human health consideration need to be done while the different classifications. So we will see how it is they are going to classify. So based on the source, number one, source means which is the source of the poison. Number one is the naturally occurring poisons, because these are the poisons or the animal toxins or microbial or fungal toxins. Then toxic minerals as groundwater contaminants, example, the fluoride, arsenic, mycotoxins, then the hydrocyanuric acid, the tannic acid, the ricin, abrin, and more very varieties of the toxins. Coming to the animal toxins, the zootoxins, they are all called as the collectively called as the zootoxins. So once again, it is containing the toxins from the snakes, especially snake venom toxin, the toad or the buffotoxin, then the fish toxins, or the once again the marine fish toxin or sweetwater fish toxic, or fish toxicosis is also known as ichthyotoxicosis. Ichthyotoxicosis, microbial and fungal toxins, microbial toxins, both of these are the endotoxins which are generated from the cell, whereas the exotoxins are also externally, they are produced outside the body of the animals. And the synthetic poisons, number one natural, two is synthetic. So synthetics, most of them are the man prepared, like the agrochemicals, some of the drugs, food additives, etc. So some of here the agrochemicals, use of the agrochemical cannot be avoided because of the pest damage to the crop, and also for the production of the grains which are required to the fastly developing population. Whereas the drugs, so they are also poisons. So most of the drugs are poisons because if they are in the pure form, if taken in little larger quantity, then they become toxic. That's why you are also going to learn about the dosage. That's the safe dosage. Then the food additives are also permitted to some extent, the coloring agents, etc. Then based on the physical state, whether the poison is a solid, a liquid, gas, dust, aerosol, etc. So the solid poisons, so it may be the heavy metals, then many of the toxicants which are already present in the nature, the rocks, etc. Then also liquids like the pesticides, gases, the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sarin, soman, carbon, etc. Then dust or aerosols. Dust means dusting powder, BSC dusting powder, and also the DDT aerosol. So the aerosol means a finely powdered or the dust material is sprayed into the environment. Then the third classification is based on the physical characteristic. So few of them are trying to classify that the poison is highly inflammable, then non-inflammable, then explosives, etc. During the Diwali years or the season, you can see thousands of sound are being burst in the air and creating both noise pollution, the air pollution, and also the light pollution. So sometimes the non-explosives also, they produce the toxicity by some of the time the gases, explosive gases may be there. Whereas the physical effect like the irritants, suppose if you touch a concentrated acids, then you will get irritation. Then corrosives like the methyl mercury or mercury, then non-corrosives or non-irritant toxins once again. So the physical effect. So here the animal is going to feel the effect of these poisons by its neurological system. Then based on the chemical characteristic, that's the inorganic nitrogenous compounds, inorganic and nitrogenous, organic, non-nitrogenous, then the halogenated or non-halogenated hydrocarbons, etc. Then based on the use, there are varieties of the uses of the toxicants. Number one, the food additives. So this caramel and calomel, and the insecticides, once again, the rodenticides, herbicides, weedicides, so many classifications are there. Then the rodenticides, among the rodenticides only, there are varieties of the rodenticides are there. One is coagulating rodenticide, and another one is the non-coagulating rodenticide. So coagulating rodenticides do contain the warfarin as the first agent, and the warfarin is such a agent that it is going to inhibit the clotting factor like from 1 to 7. So the bleeding which happens after the injury cannot be stopped at all. Whereas once again the toxicity based on the how much to which extent it is going to cause the injury to the animal is the extremely toxic, then highly toxic, moderately toxic, then slightly toxic, then practically non-toxic or relatively harmless. So this is the another category. So extremely toxic substances are having LD50 less than 1 milligram per kg, toxic more than 1 milligram per kg, whereas less than 1 milligram per kg. So up to 5 milligram, highly toxic, then 5 to 16, 20, 100 milligrams, it is moderately toxic, and above these things, it is slightly toxic. Then if it is more than 15 gram per kg, it is practically non-toxic or it is relatively harmless. So this type of the criteria is also taken consideration while classifying the toxicants based on the relative toxicity. And apart from this one, the based on molecular mechanism of action, this is a very diverse field because it's very difficult to classify the poisons based on the molecular mechanism, because many times the if it is a new arrival or the poison is new arrival, then its mechanism of action will not be seen or not studied at all. It is going to kill the pest, but how it is going to harm the normal human beings. So based on mechanism of actions, the poisons are classified as the sulfhydryl inhibitor. Example, the arsenic or also sometimes the mercury. Then methemoglobin inducers or producers, the example is the nitrite poisoning, NITRITE. But nitrates are converted to nitrates in the body. Then cytochrome oxidase inhibitors like the cyanide, then cholinesterase inhibitors, that's the OPC or the organochlorine compounds. Both of these are the cholinesterase, organochlorine, organophosphates and carbamates. Both of these are the cholinesterase inhibitors, whereas the OPC compounds are irreversibly inhibiting the acetylcholinesterase, whereas the carbaryls, they are temporary. So after some few hours, after withdrawing the source of the drug, they are going to cause, there is a recovery stage. Whereas based on the environment and the health consideration, environment and health consideration, then these are classified as the air pollutants, water pollutants, radiation hazards, occupation hazards, etc. So here air pollutants, varieties of the air pollutants like dusting powders, then fumes, gases, etc. They are the air pollutants like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, the methane gas, all these are air pollutants. Whereas the water pollutants like the nitrates, then nitrates, and sometimes the tannery industries, effluents, and radiation hazards, yes. Now, if you stay bare without anything, especially bare body, then the radiation hazard will definitely cause a radiation injury. Then, apart from this one, the occupational hazards. Whereas based on the type of the toxicity, it is classified based on the type, means how much fast it is going to happen. That's the acute toxicity, then subacute toxicity or chronic toxicity. All these are the different type of the terminologies. Then based on the target organs, so here the poisons affecting respiratory system. Usually this type of this classification is little bit familiar now, but we cannot classify a drug exactly under this category because the respiratory system is affected with the nitrates, carbon monoxide, then chloride, then alpha naphthyl thiourea, or it's also called as the N2 or cyanides. Whereas the systems which are affected by the barbiturate is the nervous system, like the chloral hydrates, strychnine, chlorinated hydrocarbons, common salt, etc. So these are the poisons effective on the nervous system. Whereas the liver, they are called as the hepatotoxic substances like the carbon tetrachloride, which is also abbreviated as the CTC. Whereas the mycotoxins, many of the mycotoxins are going to cause the hepatic damage, especially the aflatoxin B1 and G1, especially in the poultry. Whereas the kidneys, the damage is occurring due to the heavy metals like the mercury, aminoglycosides, and the mycotoxins. Whereas the GIT, they are the insecticides, mercury, arsenic, common salts, etc. Then heart, cardiac glycosides, then also the skeletal system, the lead, the heavy metal. Fluoride, yes, it's a water contaminant or sometimes the food contaminant. And selenium, yes, the soils are very rich in selenium versus the seleniferous plants, and these are consumed by the cattle, then get the fluorination. Then selenium also, the fluoride or selenium will accumulate in the plants. Whereas the mycotoxicosis or the mycotoxins directly do the injury to the different organs, not only the liver, but also many times the neurotoxic mycotoxins are there, hematotoxic mycotoxins are there, hepatotoxic, then nephrotoxic, so or the hemotoxic mycotoxins. So different type of the mycotoxins are there based on their nature of the damage. Then the targets and mode of actions of the poison, because why we need to study the targets and mode of the action is to treat the suffering case very effectively, so that the recovery period very fast and the damage to the body system is drastically reduced. So the toxic effects primarily depend upon the concentration and the persistence of the toxic agents at the target sites. Here there are two types. One is a target animal, then the target organ, then the target tissue, then in the molecular level, either it's a enzyme or the extracellular material, or lastly the intracellular materials like the nucleus, nucleolus, then the genetic material and the mitochondria, rough endoplasmic reticulum, and many of the enzymes. So the toxic organs directly injures the toxins which are having the organ directed toxicity. They destroy a particular system. So the example is the strong acids like the hydrochloric acid, the nitric acid, then alkalic, sodium hydroxide, then potassium hydroxide, and the heavy metals, maybe lead, mercury, then the heavy metals or heavy metal preparations. So we'll learn separately all these things, the heavy metals like carbon monoxide, hydrocyanuric acid, then the many other type of the toxic agents are also there. Whereas these interfere the membrane permeability or the carbon tetrachloride. So it is going the entire body toxicity, but the liver cells are they are having sensitivity. Whereas the examples are the CTC or carbon tetrachloride or alpha naphthalthiourea, then histamine, then the cholera toxins, biologically derived toxins produced by the Vibrio cholerae. Then nowadays the incidence of the cholera etc. are very rare because the people are using the hot water, then also the mineral waters etc. few, but the villagers still they drink the open well water or the water from the bore wells, and sometimes the parent compound is not toxic, whereas the metabolite is having structural similarity with that of the parent compound and competes with the substrate for the target site. For example, here the parathion is a organophosphorus compound. It is converted to paraxon. But the parathion is not so poisonous when compared to the metabolite, that is the paraxon. So paraxon is going to inhibit the acetylcholinesterase and cause the severe neurologic disorders, whereas the parathion is leaves inactive when directly taken inside the body. And also the fluoroacetate, which are converted to the fluorocitrates. So, and sometimes the poisons generate the reactive of this oxygen species, and also the reactive groups like the radicals, then the electrophiles, free radicals, or which are the material which are unwanted to the animal but will be circulating in the blood in enormous concentration. So the electrophiles, then neutrophils, or the redox are active reactants, and the biotransformation results in more effect interaction with receptors or enzymes or the other endogenous system ligand. So there is once again the endogenous ligands and exogenous are there. Then the bioactivation or toxification or lethal synthesis is a specific terminology which is used for the phenomenon of conversion of non-toxic substances to the more and more toxic substance. So initially the original compound or the basic compound will not be active so much, but when it's entered the liver, then gets detoxified or metabolized, so that the parent compound is less potent. Then the examples are the parathion is metabolized to peroxone, that is a very strong inhibitors of the acetylcholine esterase or the cholinesterase inhibitor. Then rodenticides, that's the fluoroacetate, is converted to fluorocitrate, which enter the tricarboxylic acid cycle and inhibits the aconitase enzyme. So because of this thing, the unwanted materials which are present in the body, they will be accumulated. Then depending upon the mode of action of the poisoning, there are varieties of the class. Mode of action means how it's going to act. For example, the enzymes. The OPC compounds produce very high toxicity through a sudden inhibition of the enzyme acetylcholine esterase. So, and also the hydrochloric acid by the cytochrome oxidase. Then the lead is going to going to cause the toxicity by the membrane bound sodium potassium ATPase or the gamma amino levulinic acid, the synthesis of the peroxylate, that's the material. And the ion channels, like the ion channels, there are varieties of this divalent and monovalent ion channels. The calcium ion channel, which is present in the heart, is a divalent channels. Whereas the organochlorine compounds, they are also going to inhibit the sodium ion channel. Then the pyrethroids, then varieties of the other substances which cause the disturbance of the regular living being. So here the OCC insecticides, then also the synthetic pyrethroids. So these are going to change the electrical conductivity. The tetrodotoxin is going to bind with that of the sodium channel. So the action potential rising phase will be stopped, because in case of animals, the condition of getting up and down, they are all depend upon the ion channels. So the blood constituents, example, hemoglobin will be a target for the nitric oxide or nitric oxide, where the nitrous oxide and these chlorides are going to bind with that of the RBC with that of the carbon monoxide. Then the nucleic acids like the DNA, nucleic acids, etc., they are in fact affected with the aflatoxins, mutagenic substances, carcinogenic substances, and also the radiation hazard. Then bone marrow, nowadays the bone marrow cancer is being increased more and more. So because of the drugs like the chloramphenicol and also radiation. So this can be avoided by not administering the drugs like chloramphenicol and also the radioactive materials. Then bone or cartilage, you know that in case of this fluoroquinolones, enrofloxacin is not indicated in the cows, because it is going to inhibit the formation of the soft cartilages. So the bone cartilages are being infected with the pains, especially they are going to exhibit the pain, the fluoroquinolones. Whereas the liver, of course, it's a target of most of the toxicants, like it is the metabolizing organ, hence any material which is entered the body, maybe oral route or parenteral route, it need to reach the liver, and the CTC or carbon tetrachloride, then the chloroform, the paracetamol in very high doses. Of course, it's safe in case of the human beings, but the lantadines, they will enter the bloodstreams and cause the cholestasis. Then pyrrolizidine alcohols, they are also going to cause the hepatic damage by the unknown mechanism. Whereas the kidney example, the lead is the one which is going to cause the heavy metal toxicity in the kidney. Of course, the other organs are also damaged, but the more and more damage which is noticeable is by the lead, mercurial salts, then and also the aminoglycosides. Then the CNS system is being damaged by the lead, mercury, then barbiturates and the strychnine. So these are all the materials. Then the toxicokinetics is another important chapter. Of course, toxicokinetics is the study of ADME, absorption, distribution, biotransformation, excretion, and also redistribution. One word is missing here. An important parameter in the toxicokinetics, the change of blood concentration of toxic material with time. As the time advances, there is a decrease in the concentration of the toxic material. There should be also always any foreign material which is enters the body through any of the routes. The initial concentration will be reduced to half or 1/3. Then it causes the peak plasma concentration and slowly come down. And the change in the blood concentrations of these toxicants is depending upon the time. As the time advances, because the toxic effects is going to be reduced. And understanding about the basic processes of the absorption, distribution, biotransformation, redistribution, and excretion is essentially required. The reason being, because if you know the absorption pattern very properly, so we can inhibit the absorption by administering the varieties of the substances. Of course, the gastric lavaging, then the catharsis inducing, then also the chelating agents, or sometimes the absorbing agent like the activated charcoal. Then also we can inhibit the distributions by the drugs which are going to bind in the blood and precipitate them. Then biotransformation process can be changed either depending upon the thing. So if a metabolite is a toxin is going to be a inactive metabolite, then we can increase the biotransformation. Then excretion is very, very essential. It's required because most of these substances, 90% of the toxic materials, they need to be excreted out of the body. Maybe it will take some time, but it is very much necessary that they should be get out of the body, maybe through the urine. Mainly 90% is urine, then about the other percent is through the bile. Bile means it is through the feces, then through saliva, some of the prostaglandins, etc. they are excreted out of the lungs also. Then the sweat, or many times the secretions, the saliva, etc. So ultimately the drug need to get out of the body. Then the absorption. So the toxic effects are evident only after the absorption, means the required concentration or the concentration of a material which reaches the toxic level after absorption only, because through any route it need to be absorbed, maybe the parenteral route or the enteral route, means or the oral route, or sometimes the dermal exposure or the mucous membrane exposure, and many other, that's the inhalation also. So it is important to know by which route the xenobiotic has entered the body and what are all the processes involved in the passage of the xenobiotics across the membranes, that is the translocation of the xenobiotics. So to arrive at the receptor level, means sometimes the drug, they do require a specific receptors or the target site or target and mode of action of the site. And the xenobiotics, must be translocated across the cell membranes. So you also know it very well that ultimately in case of the other therapeutic agents, the therapeutic concentration should be reached in such a way that the receptors are either stimulated or blocked. Whereas this translocation takes place by the following process, that's the absorption, what we can say by simple diffusion, means the chemical or the toxin comes and simply passes the membranes, whereas the filtration means depending upon the pore size. If there is a filtration is a process by which the element enters the body of a human being or animals, depending upon the pore size, means molecular size. Then the facilitated diffusion always require one channel or the gateway where in which the energy is not required. Whereas the active transport is this requires a transport material and it is energy dependent. The pinocytosis, so this is the invagination of a material through the cell membrane with the material is engulfed in. When coming to simple diffusion, then this is the most common route by which the xenobiotics pass through the membranes. So this is characterized by the movement of the xenobiotics down concentration gradient, means there is a two membranes are there. So one side more concentration, the another side less concentration. Because of the gradient, the materials will pass from one area to the another area. So that's called as the simple diffusion. So this is not substrate specific because the some of the materials they are the substrate specific, means only few of the carrier they require the carrier molecules, whereas the small molecular weight by 600, these hydrophilic toxicants can cross membrane through aqueous pores. In each and every cell of the body, there are aqueous pores through which the water inside gets inside the cell, whereas these materials will enter the body through the aqueous pores. Yes, another 5 minutes. Simple diffusion means, very simply, like if you put some dye or any other thing, the entire water will be red or the yellow depending upon the dye. So simply it is going to diffuse. Whereas more high molecular weight hydrophobic materials, diffuse across the lipid domain of the membranes, and the rate of biotransformation or the translocation depends upon the lipid layer, the water partition coefficient value. It is also called as lipid water partition coefficient value, like LWPCV. Then concentration gradient. So one side low, one side high, there is a concentration gradient. So high to low, always there is a movement. And degree of ionization, whether the pKa means the dissociation constant of the toxicant, and pH means the acidity or alkalinity of the environment. So higher lipid water partition coefficient values and lower degree of the ionization favors the absorption. So remember this thing, the higher lipid water partition coefficient value, then the decreased or reduced degree of ionization, means more and more ionization with charged particle, then there is a chance that it favors the absorption. Whereas the other terminologies are filtration. Here, this is called as the passage through the pores and the aqueous channel, especially in the membrane, that is restricted to the hydrophilic compounds only with no molecular mass. So that's how, if the molecular size is less, it is passed through the membranes of the cell. And this takes place by the hydrostatic and osmotic pressure. So it's a very simple physics that the moleculars are filtered. Then kidney glomeruli have relatively large sized pores, that is the 70 nanometer, and allow passage of the water soluble molecules up to the molecular weight of 60,000. So usually in the glomeruli, the capillaries. It's a complex capillary mechanism system where in which there is a pressure. With the pressure, the blood flows and the blood is squeezed into the liquids. Then this traverses through the nephrons, through which the essential minerals, vitamins, and the liquid are absorbed into the bag. That's the proximal convoluted tubules. So they are going to reabsorb the 90% of the material back, whereas the water and some other organic materials get excreted in the urine. And channel, it's especially certain channels are there, ion channels, and most are very, very smaller. Then allow the passage of the xenobiotics, small molecular weight up to few hundred only, because these channels are very, very specific to the varieties of the substances like the calcium ion channels, sodium ion channels, potassium ion channels, then also the chloride ion channels. So these play important role. Then facilitated diffusion is written here. You can see that this is the carrier mediated process here, and move the toxicants across the concentration gradient. There is a concentration gradient is there. Suppose this is transport. This example is glucose, especially in the intestine. So inside the intestine, the capillaries will have more glucose when compared to the intestine. But in spite of that thing, the glucose is pushed inside the intestine using the carrier mediated process. Then transport process does not require the input of energy, especially the glucose absorption or energy absorption in the body does not require any energy. Then more rapid than that of the simple diffusion. Facilitated diffusion is carrier mediated, but the translocation depend upon the limitations of the carrier molecules. Example, the transportation of the glucose across the basolateral membrane of the intestinal epithelium. Then from plasma to erythrocytes, against the concentration gradient, the ions are moving, or the molecules of the glucose, they are moving. Especially the glucose is pumped inside the central nervous system. So even though the concentration early is more, so the facilitated diffusion takes place by the diffusion process with the carriers, assistance of the carriers. Here it is opening one side, then the next side closes, and the other end opens from the interior to exterior, or the vice versa. Then the active transport always requires the energy, whereas the earlier process, that's the facilitated diffusion, does not require any energy. It requires a carrier molecule, whereas the active transport require the both carrier and energy dependent process. So here you can see the diffusion in this particular diagrammatic representation. Varieties of the molecules are waiting outside, and through the small passage in between the cell, they are going to diffuse, whereas the facilitated diffusion require the carrier molecule. This is the carrier molecule, and it takes inside the materials. Especially there are certain what we can call as the channels, but it doesn't require any energy, whereas the saturable process is blocked by the metabolic inhibitors like excretion of the strongly acidic or the basic xenobiotics and metabolized into the urine. So this is against the concentration gradient here. So here you can see that inside the material is also more, but it is also more outside. Then there is a conformational change called as a specific change in the molecular place. Then this is mediated by the energy in the form of the adenosine triphosphate. The removal of the penicillin from the central nervous system will take place by the choroid plexus, also takes up by the active transport system. Then pinocytosis, here you can see varieties of the cells are there, like that. Here the solutes, like the pinocytosis. Here the solutes will come in the contact with that of a cell, which is containing the nucleus and cytoplasm and many intracellular substances. So there is an imagination of the cell membrane, then internalization of the cell membrane and formation of the vesicles. Then the vesicle will release the material inside. Here also the same thing is mentioned. Then the material initially will come in contact with of the cell membrane, then it is invaginated, then the vesicles are formed, the vesicles are taken inside, then get open. So this is important in the removal of large molecules. Example, the lungs. So many times the carbon molecule, this dioxide and the unwanted materials are removed from the lungs through the alveoli following the pinocytosis. Then tomorrow we will learn about the routes of entry of the cyanobiotics in the body.